Welcome back everyone on this journey on learning the basic of French cooking, and today we're going to be talking about the knives and utensils, a meaty subject, but you may say to yourself already, my god, I need to get the best knife kit ever. But do you really need that? Let's find out. And here they are, the knives. I'm sure that many of you wanted to hear what I had to say, perhaps my experience about knives. And as you can see, there's plenty of different ones. Now before you start, a lot of people ask me, what am I using? You may be curious, what is Stefan using on his channel? What is this knife? Well, these ones that you see here are global knives. And I did not buy them. That was a present when I started the channel from someone, from some friends. And I've been using them ever since. And the only one I bought afterwards were these two ones that are here. So through 3 years of making, I didn't buy much. But let's go through what they are really. So in French, these here are called the couteau d'office or the paring knife. It's used for the everyday task to cut small things, vegetables and things like that, and small pieces of meat, or decorate things in the kitchen. They come in different sizes. The size that I've got here, just to show you here, this is in inches, about 3 inches long, about 8 centimeters long, and you can have them as well in 10 to 12 centimeters or like 4 inches or a bit more. There's different size of paring knife you can get. The next one, this one is the boning knife. It is used to have a blade that's very sturdy, very sharp. You can't bend it, and you have a strong grip, and you can use it to like debone a chicken, cut around the bones and slice cutlets and everything like that, or tough pieces of meat. Quite a good knife. This one is a modern one called the sentoku knife, a kind of a Japanesey chopping knife. It's got this very kind of straight blade, a square here, and you can use it to really like chop things. It's a bit of a chopping knife. This one here, the bread knife or serrated knife, it's got this kind of teeth, as we say in le couteau à pain in French. Couteau à dents, it means the knife with teeth, because it's got this kind of teeth on here. So that's a classic that you may know. And this one, of course, the chef's knife. Now this is the most well-known knife there is. Everybody in the kitchen uses that. This is the knife of the chef, and they comes in different size. And this one, because you may be curious, I'll tell you, this is 20 centimeters or 8 inches. I like it to be a bit more, usually like 23 centimeters or 9 inches. It's a good medium. The other knives that I've got here next to me that I bought is this is the filleting knife, the fillet sole. Because usually it's used to fillet the lemon soles and things like that. And the particularity of these knives, they're very sharp, they can bend, you see. A very thin blade that can be bended, so when you use it on there, I don't know if you can see, and maybe I do it here, and you can bend and go around the skin for the filleting. And this last one, this is more of a traditional French paring knife, the couteau d'office. The real traditional one has got this kind of wooden handle over here. It's 2 pieces of metal, compared to these global knives that are just 1 piece of metal. But the question is, after these 3 years, I was like you. I was like, oh my god, I need to use all these knives. When I started, I need to know, to learn how to use these things. But really, do you really need these knives, first off? Which one should you buy? And are they all really useful? So let me tell you, in my experience, I'm not an expert in knives, but in my experience after 3 years of cooking at home, and from what I've learned, let me tell you what's important. So, put everything away. Number 1, numero uno, this, the paring knife, the French style paring knife, a workhorse in the kitchen to do absolutely everything. You need one. One of my favorite, and everybody's using it, so I will put this as number 1. Number 2 that you really need, let me pick the boning knife. Boning knife, it can come in a bit of a arc shape as well, but a nice sturdy blade to cut around anything with bones and chicken and carcasses and things like that, to cut cutlets. It's got plenty of use because it's sharp, and it's not too long, not too small. It's a good knife for everyday use or when like the deboning. So number 2, paring knife, and this is the boning knife. The third one that I would recommend that I find extremely useful and I've been using all the time is this one. Now, if you could have only one knife, you could have, you could basically do everything with a good chef's knife. So that makes really 3 knives that you actually need in the kitchen. You don't need a panoply of knives when you start, okay? And these are the 3 important ones. The bread knife is very useful to chop like tomatoes and the base of the cauliflower or some courgette, something a bit tough that it's not going to get damaged, so it's a good thing as a complement to it. And of course for bread, pastries, and sometimes some frozen things or whatever, it's a good sturdy knife. So you could push it to 4 knives, but do you really need the filleting knife, for instance? Not when you start. You're not going to be filleting fish for some time when you start cooking. It's an interesting knife, but you don't need it. Do you need the Sentoku knife? This is a specialty knife. It's fun. It can be a knife you may be using if you got small hands or just because you like the shape and the Japanese styles of thing. But honestly, it is more of an extra kind of knife when you get some experience. Do you need different size of paring knife? No. You don't. Just take a standard size, like these ones, for instance. This is too small, I think, and this is too long. And this one here is just right in the middle. And that's why I like that one. And the handle, most important, is more comfortable. And talking about comfort, let me tell you about how to choose knife. Do you need to buy a super expensive knife like this Global or other things like that? No, you don't. Do you need to buy the cheapest knife around? Like the real cheaper ones, like the whole set? You don't want that neither, because they're gonna fall apart, they're gonna stop being sharp in no times, and most likely, they're not gonna be durable. So what you want, number one, is to take like the medium range, like a decent brand, and that's kind of well known, that makes knife. I mean, German, Swiss, or French, or any country. But do spend a little bit of money, especially when you can buy individual knife. You don't need to buy the whole set. If you want, you can, if it's a decent brand. But make sure you've got the important knife included in it. Now, the most important when you choose a knife, for me, again, and this is all for me based on my experience, is ergonomics. All right? For me, it's all about the handle. When you use a knife day in, day out, and you're going to be cooking and using it, it becomes your personal tool, and having something that fits your hand is the most important. You see, the handle has to be nice, rounded, and it must feel your hand, when you wrap around like that, and be really able to use it and chop and have a good grip on it. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's not because the knife is expensive, like this. This is one of the most expensive knives around, the Global knives, okay? This is the paring knife, the small size from Global. If you look at the handle, it's good, but look at that. This is incredibly stupidly thin. I mean, the handles, let me measure, honestly it's a joke. The handle is basically flat. This is not even a quarter of an inch, it is actually in millimeters. This is what, 2, 3 millimeters? Like, let's say maximum 4 millimeters in width. This is the space you have to hold that thing. In a hand, it doesn't work. It's flat. If I had 2 spatulas instead of hands, like a duck or something, I could hold this like this. But this is such a bad design. That's to tell you that sometimes expensive doesn't mean good. And honestly, I don't understand. And in my view, this is one of the worst knives. Like all these ones, the same one here, even the bigger one is really not comfortable. Most of the Global knife I've used, I haven't been comfortable. It's only when you reach this size, the full handle size for the bread knife and the chef's knife, then you got a nice, rounded, ergonomic shape that I can hold like this and I can really have a good grip. And that's for me the most important. If I go and choose a knife, I'm gonna make sure that I don't buy it online, first of all, because you want to go like a pair of clothes, you want to put it on. You want to take it in your hands, hold it, feel the balance, the weight, how it feels. If it feels good, it's good. It's a good sign. You're gonna be happy with your knife. But for the quality and the build, make sure that the brand is good. Like this, you're sure they're gonna be decent, they're gonna keep sharp and things like that. But ergonomics is the most important. But that's it for the knives. Now let's move quickly on to the utensils.